The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my own personal merch store, the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. I have hats, I have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, water bottles, notebooks, you name it, I've got it. The description and the link for that will be in the description of this episode. Also, right now, if you use the promo code WELCOME, I will give you 5% off of your first purchase. That's the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link, Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans, as it is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code PATRIOT15 to get 15% off your purchase. Now, let's start the show.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is your special guest host, John Fitty Falcone, as I'm filling in for Mike Bono today as he's out on the road. Today, we have a really great guest for you coming the whole way from Ashtabula County, Ohio. But before we get into this great guest, let's make sure we check out all of our sponsors in the pre-roll and the post-roll. A lot of these individuals are small business owners. Let's make sure we shop small and support these great sponsors of the show. At this time, we're going to welcome our next guest, as again, coming from Ashtabula County. He is a friend of ours, and his name is Tyler Gancos. Tyler, thanks for joining the show, man.
Oh, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to this.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about this for like months since the last time I seen you, and we got you scheduled quite a while out, so we are glad we are here recording this. Yes, everybody, the show is pre-recorded. We are recording this a couple weeks out on a Friday night. So what a better way to spend a Friday night than hanging out with Tyler on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm surprised we actually came through with the plan here because we planned this while we were drinking. So it's impressive we were able to, follow through.
I don't forget when somebody says they want to be on the Ride Home Rants podcast because they go on the list. And yes, everybody, we keep a list of all the guests that we schedule the whole way out. So, but Tyler, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. So, kind of tell us, right? We just said you are from Ashtabula County, but kind of tell everybody where that is at, and then where you grew up within the county.
Oh man, Ashtabula County, very upper right tip of Ohio. Grew up, born in Cleveland, grew up out in the country a bit, towards my teenage years, moved up towards, the city right on the lake. And you really get a feel for the city once you're, on the lake. Cause that's really the only reason, the only reason, we have anything going on here. If we didn't have the Great Lakes, this area would just kind of be more cornfield. So it was a special area. There was a lot of music happening around the time I was, getting into my teenage years, living down in that area, and had all these like secret underground venues and everything. Kind of a raunchy town. It's not for lighthearted people, I would say.
That's fair. That's fair.
Definitely a friendly element. Everyone around here knows each other, but like, you also know who to avoid,
I think that's like that with any small town, small area in America. So
I think
Tyler,
it's charming.
Usually small towns are charming, but usually small towns do have some interesting characters. So, before you moved to Ashtabula County, more specifically, you went to the Jefferson High School in Jefferson,
Yes.
Ohio. Where did you actually grow up in Cleveland before you moved out there?
West 93rd Street, I think, was our old house, and around the time, just not a very good neighborhood. From my understanding, there our paper boy, I say paper boy, but he was a elderly man who had the job. Not that it makes it any better, but he was stabbed on his route. Ended up dying on our porch. I don't mean to get too graphic super early
Oh
on
wow.
here into the
That's
yeah.
no, that's okay.
So yeah, we got out of there pretty quickly and moved out to the country. Like just okay, we need the exact opposite now. Let's move the kids to a cornfield. A lot less stabbings out there. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's very unfortunate for the mailman and or sorry, paperboy, and definitely condolences out that way many years ago. But definitely glad you moved out that way with your family though, because otherwise we would have never met, and you probably would have never met your wife, and we all became friends and everything in between. So, so you went to Jefferson High School. You're one of quite a few guests that have been from that area on here. Andy Santiago, you went to school with.
Oh yeah.
You went to school with Blake Perry, who's been on the show. His mom, Danica. So
Yeah.
what was it
Mama
like?
Blake. Yeah.
What was it like going to Jefferson High School? I mean, what was that experience like for you? And what kind of were you involved in when you were in school?
Uh, Involved in as much stuff as I could, honestly. Yeah, football, music, mainly music and football, honestly. But Model United Nations, got into theater for a little bit. That being said, didn't really enjoy high school too much. A lot of my time, I would sneak away and go to the band room and just like play some bass guitar or something. I keep my grades like just well enough to where I could coast through and then skip a good amount of my days and go and just kind of like thump on the bass for a bit.
Yeah, and you know what? Hey, it worked out for you, right? Being a
It
musician.
honestly,
Yeah.
yeah, surprisingly enough, it did.
It's funny. I've worked in a lot of different positions within education over the years, and the more people you talk to, the more people than not, I think, either disliked up to hated their high school experience. And I don't know, I would say I don't know if I can pinpoint one way or another why, because people all had different experiences with that. But I think the more people you talk to in life, the more they're going to say that they disliked or did not enjoy their high school experience. I think is
Oh
very
yeah.
different
Oh
than
well,
when people go off to college.
you're like a still morphing human, like the ages 14 through 18. There, you're just there's a lot happening inside of you that kind of makes it difficult to be like packed in a building with thousands of other kids all going through the same thing. So,
Yeah,
it,
no,
uh,
absolutely. I agree 100% with you on that. It's definitely a very just odd time if you look, back at it. I don't know if it really shapes anybody to the person they are today. I think that's learned through life experiences, but I mean, maybe it's just experience that helped us gain that experience to go into life and become the person we wanted to become. So
yeah.
you did mention it though. You are friends with Blake Perry and everything. So
Yes.
how has that been watching him, go from Jefferson to Baldwin Wallace and be a college wrestler to now be a pro MMA fighter? What is that like being his friend, watching him grow like that?
Oh, absolutely insane. And like anyone you ask, Blake is the nicest person on the planet. Like, does not have a bad bone in his body, and just the fact that he fights like cage fighting against other cage fighters, and he is just the nicest human being you'll ever meet. Is just it's amazing to me, and just such intensity and drive too. The way I used to see this guy work out and like diet, like this did not look fun. Like every day he'd come into school with just like these protein packed meals and like his microwave scrambled eggs. I remember that was a big thing. Just to keep weight for wrestling, he has like avocados and microwave scrambled eggs, and they just smelled horrible. But like he ate it every day and was super dedicated and just yeah, pushes himself, drives. Had his big 15 minutes of fame there with that broken nose for a second, which
Yeah, that was quite the scene, and I think if anybody
oh my
didn't
god.
see that, I think you should see that because I think it talks about the testament of how tough Blake is
Oh
to
yeah,
have
and
his
just the fact he
nose.
wanted to keep fighting too. Like he's like, no, we're going.
Yeah,
I
he
don't care
wanted
if
to
my
keep
nose is in the
going.
wrong direction.
Right, with his nose is shattered on his face, bent all types of ways. But I think it showed a testament of how tough Blake is. And I think I
Oh
sent him
yeah.
a message, like literally right after that. I was like, dude, sorry you lost, but like, congrats. That was so impressive on
Oh
your
yeah, it's
toughness.
all anybody talked about too. And it's still, I mean, you type in you type in worst broken nose UFC, third picture that comes up. And then you scroll, it's just a sea of Blake Perry's.
So there you go, everybody. If you want to see one of the worst broken noses ever in cage fighting, definitely search what Tyler just said. You can probably find it on YouTube or even Google. So one thing too, and I know you know her is Blake's mom has been on the show, and for people that don't know Blake being an MMA fighter, well, his mom is a fan of combat sports as well, and has actually boxed as a grandmother. So,
Yeah.
can you kind of talk about, knowing his mom, throughout the years, and did you ever see her becoming like a boxer as a grandma?
I
And
totally did not. We actually saw her fight last year, I believe it was, out in Cleveland, and she just like I thought like I'm like, okay, she could kick my ass. Like she just had this stance, like she looked like Tyson in the ring. It was scary because like this is the same woman who would like pick us up and like get us snacks, and it just totally did not expect that out of her. But like it's like a family of fighters, it's a cool thing to witness, and like seeing Blake there just cheering on his mom the whole time and how they like motivate each other is very, yeah, they're just such nice people. I could talk about them all day.
yeah, no, they've been great for the podcast here. We were so happy to, connect with them and get to know them. And yeah, just very nice people. And I hope, and I told Blake this, I hope one day he can get a match here in Cleveland to fight MMA. And I know
Oh God, yeah.
myself would be there, and my wife would be there. And I know all of Jefferson and Ashtabula County would be so excited for that. So, we got any MMA promoters fighting or MMA promoters looking for fighters to fight in Cleveland? Definitely look up Blake Perry. You won't regret it. You'll have a
Yeah.
huge crowd. So me and
Hometown
Tyler will
hero.
be there as the hype men. So going away a little bit off of that, Tyler. So you graduate a little over 10 years ago, and then you've kind of embarked on your adulthood, right? So we talked about the high school experience, and football and the guitar, but then you graduate. And so
Yeah.
what have you been doing all these years as far as like your career moves? Everybody usually has a pretty interesting story with this. So what has brought you to where you are now?
Oh, geez. Well, it's always been music. Like I got a couple offers in high school to play football in college. At this time I was just like terribly unhealthy, like pushing 300 pounds, and these college recruiters are like, we'll give you like a scholarship, but we want to get you up to 340 pounds. And I'm like, I appreciate it. I just think that would kill me. So I think I'm done with football. But continued on with music like all throughout after high school. Ended up just kind of moving in with group of friends, jumping around place to place. We had this whole like little hippie enclave of musicians, get together, and it was just jam sessions for like hours at a time. The whole living room just filled with musical equipment, getting lost in it, and it becomes second nature at that point. Like that was like our version of watching TV, and that wasn't like our job. We don't get paid for that shit, so we were all cooks. That was our main thing. I got started, restaurants, cooking, and then nighttime you get off, you get, go play some music, playing open mic shows. So you want to be a musician, but you also kind of get really good at cooking at the same time. So that's the career that's happening while you're trying to make the music work. And go figure, when you're cooking, you meet so many people like, oh man, you want to hear my demo tape? They're like, I just recorded this beat, man. It's so sick. We go out to my car and smoke a joint real quick before we got to make these pizzas, listen to my demo.
Uh, that's funny. So you said you've worked as a cook, and I think anybody who works as a cook is an unseen artist, right?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
they're the people that make this food that make the business go.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that don't get tipped out. right? They're the ones that don't get seen unless somebody says, I want to talk to the chef, and they make the chef come out. So
Yeah.
can you kind of talk about, where that ultimately that love of food came from, and ultimately, like, what do you enjoy making, outside of work for, you and your wife, but what do you enjoy making the most at work too? So can you kind of walk us through all that?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I jumped around so many different jobs. Like I fine dining. I was a pizza chef for a long time, throwing the dough and all that, and really enjoyed making pizzas. And I think, I got that Italian heritage, so sticking pizzas in
Right.
the oven, I felt like a stereotype, but I was like happy about it. I'm like, I'm making the pizzas. And that was me all day, just behind the counter throwing dough. So I always enjoyed that, and I still make pizza at home, with the wife. We try to make a lot of stuff from scratch, which that's been really beneficial, just diet wise, knowing how to make like anything. It'll win. Like I could throw together a cake from scratch, like
Mhm.
just something I didn't kind of learn to appreciate until like now into my adult years. How much I actually learned cooking and how much I did appreciate it. But it is an art form, and that's why so many artists end up being cooks because you have that drive to create something, and at that moment, it's the most feasible option for you to get paid. And most cooks end up jumping around from restaurant to restaurant, kind of just chasing that higher paycheck. One place won't promote you past being a dishwasher, but like, oh, I learned to work the fryer, so I want to work as the fryer guy now. And you see Wendy's is hiring a fryer guy, then you kind of work your way up from there. And I could have kept going with it, but I don't like working weekends.
Most people don't.
It's so damn lonely. Like you want to hang out with your friends so bad, and then you see a group of them coming in, and they're about to just kill you with food orders, just to like spite you for not hanging out with them. It's
I do get that. Like, people definitely hate working weekends. And I think when you work in like that restaurant business or that hospitality business, you
oh
just have to have a flexible schedule. It's even more than, people that work in beauty field, even people that work in nursing, or medical field, even people that work in education, still are kind of always on the clock or doing something. But when you're in hospitality and food, and you will work any hour and all hour because there is no time off, really.
oh, dude, 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift at Denny's. You see some crazy shit, man. It's
It's funny you say that, because I seen this thing on Instagram, and I'm sure people can see it on TikTok or whatever. But it's like from like 10 or 12 years ago, and there's like a death metal band in the back of Denny's.
yeah.
And yeah, have you seen that?
Oh yeah, man. That was
And
everywhere on the internet for a minute.
and the guy's like, "What's up? What's up? What the f is up, Denny's?"
What's
And
up,
there's like
Denny's?
people in a mosh pit, and you're like, "Did a guy just say what the f is up, Denny's? Like, why are you at Denny's? And what time is this?"
Some
So
Denny's are just lawless.
they are. I've seen some, yeah, wild things at some Denny's, from back at home to Boardman, Ohio, to just places all over. People fighting, people throwing drinks, cops coming, just crazy people working. Yeah, you see some wild things at Denny's like after the bar. That's for sure when you're a lot younger. That is for sure. So, um, the one thing though, I do, kind of want to get your take on with this. So when you are a chef, okay, and you are cooking all day, right? Do you want to come home and cook though too?
Oh,
Like,
dude, no.
is that something you want to do, or absolutely not?
God, no, no. That's the last thing you want to do. Like, I would make like these amazing like wagyu fillets and like foie gras and these amazing like reduced sauces all day, throwing together these dishes, and then I'd come home and I'd have a bowl of Fruit Loops because like the cereal was just the simplest, best thing at that point. Because like that's the other thing is I hated cooking. Uh, you do something for so long like that, you have a love hate relationship with it.
Sure. I can definitely get that. I will say, Tyler, like, I wish I would have learned cooking sooner. I didn't learn it till I moved out on my own, and I was like 27 when I did that. But man, trying to learn how to make like chicken and like scrambled eggs and steak and like all that stuff when you have no idea what you're doing, you know, and then you just kind of get good at only a few dishes. And even to this day, I still only make like a handful of things. I wish I could have learned more in the cooking sense, that I could have developed my skills over the years. But like being older now and like almost
Oh
approaching
no, man!
40, I have like no
You know how
ambition.
many 40-year-old dads like became chefs once the Food Network became a big thing? Like that's no, you could learn, man. You put on that fucking Gordon Ramsay show, you'll be making amazing dishes in no time. Don't count yourself out.
Well,
That's a hobby you can learn in your later years and totally crush it.
I'll have to keep that in mind as the future comes along. I
Make
did
some
go.
food for the wife, man. They love it.
Yeah, I mean, we do like I will make I'll make chicken, I'll make steak, I'll do like salads. I've always make like the sides for us. We'll do pasta, but we don't really make our own sauce from scratch. And I know that's bad being Italian. I don't make my sauce from scratch, but we kind of
Uh,
like some of the
who
other
has
sauce out of the can.
who has time now? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, but it's difficult. I haven't made chili in a long time, but I used to make chili in the crock pot. It never turned out right though. So got to try to get back to that. So I'm like usually like a steak, chicken, fish type of guy, but my wife doesn't really like fish with that. So it's kind of limits us. But Cassie makes some really good things too. So
Yeah, I've never
we
been big on the
definitely.
fish myself.
No, not a fish guy.
Nah, not a fish guy. Fish
Huh.
tacos, maybe. That's about it.
Interesting. Okay. So you kind of hit it on this too with being in the cooking realm, your music, right? And you talked about, playing and being in bands and stuff. Can you kind of talk us through then this like more in depth of your musical journey, once you really got into it and what you're doing now with music?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it starts a lot of kids like obviously, you're listening to whatever your dad's playing or my older brother was playing at the time. And fifth grade, I just wanted to play an instrument, and that was the year you could join band. So I picked trumpet, and I excel in music. Wish I could have excelled in like anything academic, but that wasn't really the case. So I just kind of ran with the music thing. Uh, High school, you get jazz band, and I got to play bass guitar, and that was like the first real like love in music was me playing bass guitar, and like you start playing bass, you start like just looking up bands just to hear like these bassists you heard of like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Flea, stuff like that. You start learning all the Flea bass lines. You start bands with like kids from school, just terrible little punk bands in your garage, shit like that. But as I carried on with that, meeting just all these people, going to shows, local shows, you just meet so many local musicians, and so many of these guys end up, living together, like getting these houses and just sharing the space just so you can like hang out and jam, record music. Like we'd had the whole house set up, mixing boards, amps everywhere. There like wasn't furniture. It was just a live-in studio. There were days we were just sleeping on the floors, waking up and playing. But there wasn't any money coming in. There wasn't any like actual albums being made. We were recording these little like tracks and then would just kind of pass them on and try to make something better. And it got frustrating. So I just kind of started doing my own stuff. I haven't like played with any other musicians, like jammed in so long, but it's just been me playing guitar, which I ended up learning, after bass. It makes it a little bit easier to learn one before the other. I'm playing this kick drum and a tambourine with my foot. I got the kazoo going, so it's like a whole one-man band. Like, who needs other band members? I'll just be every instrument, which kind of started out of necessity, and a little bit of bitterness, I think. Like I can't find anyone around here to play songs I like or I want to play, so I'll just make my own band. And that's actually been going great. And turns out when you're like a one-man band, you don't have to pay any other members of the band, so it's very profitable if you can find a way to play multiple instruments at once.
Yeah, definitely cutting down on the overhead cost on that one. So, um, can you kind of talk about then your schedule? Where do you play at, and like where can people find you, and how do you find these different venues to play at, or restaurants or whatever it may be?
Oh, word of mouth. Again, through working in the food industry too, you meet all these people who, I just recently went back and played for one of the restaurant owners I used to work for, Fitzgerald's. Deborah down on Bridge Street in Ashtabula. It was a beautiful wine bar, and she had me coming for Mother's Day. I did some songs for the moms, That was really nice. I play Marco Vineyard a lot. They've been a huge help. Me and this kid Ryan who's working there are just both really interested in kind of like bringing more like art into the area, trying to get more people out here to see a lot of like the overlooked potential in the area. And a lot of that comes from like the music we had out here and the art we had out here. There were so many amazing artists that lived out here that ended up, going to school, moving to Cleveland, Akron. But just something special about this place that like we really believe in. And so we throw these, shows together. He's got a whole string of musical events coming up throughout the summer at Marco Vineyard. Just insanely talented musicians. Honestly, it's kind of shocking for me because I'm one of those people who doesn't think I'm that talented. So when I get up there and play and people enjoy it, it's just like a genuine rush, a surprise every time, a great feeling like, wow, I'm like really, people are enjoying this. I'm getting paid to play music. It's a surreal feeling.
No, that's definitely awesome, and that's an incredible story that you were able to like will yourself to do this from basically never doing it and never getting paid to now being a one man band and having word of mouth and traveling all over and bringing the arts, back to Ashtabula County and Bridge Street. And I think the one thing I really believe that's underrated in Ashtabula County and that area of like Ohio and some of PA is Bridge Street. And I talked about this on another episode with Jordan Wetson with about Ashtabula and Ashtabula County, but Bridge Street is great. Like you would never know some parts of Ashtabula have issues if you're just on Bridge Street because you would think that's like the greatest thing ever.
Oh yeah.
And I think with the restaurants there and like the music and there's ice cream and either they probably still are or they have built those like condo high-rise townhouse things up the road. I think it's really really cool for people to go see. I mean, is there anything you would recommend for people coming from out of town to Ashtabula to do on Bridge Street?
Oh God. I mean, just Walnut Beach alone, going there, seeing the lake, especially this time of year, just starting to get really nice outside. Favorite dive bar ever, Iroquois. A lot of people have mixed emotions about the place. I personally am a big fan of kind of dimly lit, semi-dirty bar that only plays rock music. And just the mix of that with like, we have Cloven Hoof down there, which shout out to Ryan, he's brewing the most delicious beer I've ever tasted. Local Ashtabula musician, being into the heavy metal and he's making these delicious beers. All the restaurants I was working with down there, Parola Brothers, gotta love that pizza. Fitzgerald's, the wine bar, Rennick. I'm pretty much naming like every business on Bridge Street now. I'm realizing.
You are, but there's great publicity for them, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely a really really nice place, that's for sure.
Like any great places to check out, all of them. Just go check out all of them.
Yeah, except I would tell people to do it in the summer or the fall because the winter's right on the water there though can get mighty mighty cold with the wind.
Personally, that's one of my favorite times, walking Bridge Street in the middle of winter when no cars can get down. It's beautiful, man.
You know what? It's funny too because like people are like, "Is Cleveland cold?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Is it the coldest place you've lived in?" And I'm like, or been in? And I'm like, "No." I'm like, the cold in Ashtabula County, in Ashtabula itself, and in Erie, PA, are so much colder than Cleveland because it's all directly higher up.
Oh yeah,
towards Canada. It is so cold in Ashtabula compared to Cleveland.
Oh man, one of these houses I lived in with the musician friends, we lived right on the lake. We had a little beach and everything. There'd be days we couldn't even open the door; it was just frozen over with a sheet of ice. Good excuse to call in work and jam all day though. So
yeah, for sure, make some demo tapes and stuff. So, and another thing I want to talk to you about, and I didn't know this about you until we hung out and you talked about it, and really how we got connected with the podcast is you do some stand-up comedy as well. So can you kind of talk to our listeners, because Mike
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
stand-up comic, how you got into doing comedy and what your background is with that?
Just lifelong fan, like in general. I mean, I was watching stand-up specials. It's one of the things my parents had on constantly was, old like George Carlin specials and like Ray Romano and Jerry Seinfeld. So I just always had like a love for it. And just last year, November, I just heard of this local guy who was kind of throwing local comedy shows together, and that was one of the biggest things keeping me out of it. Was like I didn't have time to drive to Cleveland, especially working full time doing other shit. So he starts these shows, and I'm like, I'll throw my hat in the ring. I'll try it out. First show, I just went over great. Like I'm like, if this goes okay, I'll try it again. If not, whatever. I went up and I tried it. Always wanted to try it. Went great. And since then, it's just kind of been a building thing. He's Jimmy Ward, Wardy's Laugh Factory. I got to give them a shout out there, who I'm working with. We got a little residency happening. We're going to be doing Monday nights at the Cove nightclub in Geneva. That's going to be every Monday, June through July through August, I believe. But yeah, and people have been loving it because there one thing that hasn't been happening down here is comedy, and everybody loves comedy. People don't want to drive all the way out to either Erie or Cleveland, so this offers like a good kind of in between. And it's local people. We're not getting huge celebrities out here or anything, but just seeing like that's an option now for entertainment. I kind of wanted to volunteer for it as well. Just because I am such a big fan of comedy, I'm like, yeah, let's get up there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's kind of what Mike has done, himself has played some of these smaller places kind of, all over, a couple of times up here near the Cleveland area. Last
Yeah,
year, him and one of my other, or sorry, myself and one of my other buddies went over. He was at C Bars in Madison. So we did a show there. So yeah, definitely playing at this or performing at the smaller places, with local talent, I think is pretty cool. Gives everybody a chance, right? Gets people to that area as well. And especially if you're having it like in Geneva or Ashtabula with those being beach towns, why not go out for the night, see the beach, and listen to some comedy and laugh a little bit. So with that being said, Tyler, I do want to get your take on this and like what type of comic are you? Are you like more of just standing up there and just off the cuff with the jokes? Are you prepping beforehand? Are you doing crowd work? Kind of what is your style?
I've been working on the crowd work, but I prep beforehand religiously. Just every word I say, and I have just some lengthy jokes, but it's all written out and like tweaked to the point where like I'm saying or there, but I should be saying and I'm starting to think maybe it's a little too much work, but it's been paying off on a lot of the material I've been writing. Uh, I try to keep it clean for the most part. I mean, I'm sure you've heard me curse a few times on here. I do apologize for that, but that's my native
Oh no,
tongue here.
all
That's
good.
the
All
Ashtabula
good.
native dialect.
Yeah, all no, all good. Don't worry about that on here.
No,
So,
I like to bring people together, man. That's my goal with the comedy is like I just everything is absurd. I think so. We can all agree and like find common ground and just the absurdities of life.
yeah, for sure. I mean, nothing in life is ever so like easy and straightforward and all that. I mean, a lot of life is absurd and crazy things
Yeah.
happen, and I think you got to be able to laugh, and joke about that, and have a good time and things. I mean, life's too short to always be stuffy and serious with that. So, and you mentioned it too, right? About doing this in Geneva, and I think Geneva is another hidden gem that people don't know about. Can you kind
Oh
of
yeah.
talk to our listeners about what Geneva, Ohio is like?
Oh man, Geneva. If I could specifically talk about Geneva on the lake, you know, it's fun for the whole family. If some oldest putt putt golf course in America is there, you got foot long hot dogs and t-shirts, and then at nighttime it's a place for like the wild crowd. You got the Hells Angels rolling through, karaoke night at the Swiss Chalet, and just, oh God, what's the bar down there? Have you been the Yankees?
No, I've only been to Geneva a couple times, and usually it was like to the Spire Institute for Sports. I ate at a Chinese restaurant there once, and last 4th of July we went to some brewery that was in a very small parking lot that looked out on the water, which I cannot
Yes.
recall the name.
I can't either, but I know what it is. Shout out to them. Too bad we can't recall the name, but yeah.
Yeah, great view of the water. But it was really hot on their like patio that had no umbrella. And like we just talked about this in a show a couple weeks ago, is about patios and if they're overrated or underrated. And I said they're overrated if they don't have like umbrellas and shade for people. So for every restaurant that doesn't have shade on their patio, get shade. It makes the patio that much better. Nobody wants to sit in the sun and sweat into their cheeseburger.
Oh God, no.
I
Although
think you can
I do
attest
have
to
some
that.
old bosses that would say like, oh, that just adds seasoning to it, but
Whew, I guess it depends on what you're sweating out of yourself. So could add some like a little bit of whiskey to it, or a little bit of salt. It just depends
yeah,
on all
personal
that. But
touch.
yeah, but who wants to sweat into their burger? So for every restaurant that doesn't have umbrellas or a cover on the patio, get it. People will love it because I'm sure Tyler, you can attest. There's nothing worse than sitting on a patio with no shade.
No, no. Although you did say who wants to sweat into their burger, and I think actually like Guy Fieri would want to do that.
Yeah, I think he's constantly sweating because of all the food he eats. I
Yeah.
think he just has the meat sweats constantly.
Yeah, just living with the meat sweats 24/7.
Just constantly. So, but Tyler, it's been really, really great talking with you. And,
Oh yeah.
getting towards the end of the podcast here, we have a segment called the Fast 55. And we incorporated this a couple years ago when we got going with the show. And it is 5 random questions brought to you by yours truly. And they really have nothing to do with the show, but they're so random. We try to be a little bit funny here and see if we can make people laugh. But you can answer as quickly as you want, or you can elaborate as much as you want. So if you're ready, we can get going.
Oh, dude, hit me. Let's go.
Okay. So question number 1, is horseback riding underrated or overrated?
Oh man, it's underrated because not enough people do it anymore, man. It's fun, get on the horse. Used to ride bareback all the time. I don't recommend that. That's not safe, but it's fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's like would be safe for me to ride with a saddle, let alone like nothing on the horse. I would have nightmares. My luck, I would just I would fall off as soon as I got on.
You gotta build trust with the horse, man. You gotta trust the horse.
That's a tough thing. Them horses are large and in charge. So, question number 2. If you could have been named this at birth, which one would you have chosen? Godzilla or Blazer?
Godzilla, 100%.
Yeah, I feel like that probably I should have picked something better than Blazer, but I feel like everybody would want to be named Godzilla in that case. All right. Question number 3. You're in an attack, and you can say whoever or whatever is attacking you. But who would you rather have protecting you in an attack? 100 Navy SEALs or 10 elephants?
Oh, Navy SEALs, man. 100 Navy SEALs. I've listened to a lot of Jesse Ventura interviews talking about being in the Navy SEALs and just seems like an unstoppable force.
I think the elephant though might be the other unstoppable force. So at least as far as nature goes.
What did he say? Howard Stern was asking. He was like, "What happens to a Navy SEAL if you're in a hand-to-hand combat situation?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, that wouldn't happen. You know how much ammunition we carry on us? That wouldn't happen."
That was a great impression. You actually really sounded like Jesse Ventura there. So
wrestling fan,
Yeah. Hey, he's a really cool wrestler, Jesse the Body Ventura. If anybody doesn't know, former governor of Minnesota, ran as an independent, but was a wrestling announcer for a long time. Also, for anybody who is a Predator fan of that series, He was in the original Predator
Yes, he was.
rest in peace Carl Weathers, Arnold
Yes.
Schwarzenegger, and Jesse the Body Ventura. I still think Predator 1 was the best Predator. Just throwing it out there. So,
Oh,
question
100%.
number 4. Better weather for you. Sunny in 75 or cloudy in 90?
Oh, sunny in 75, man. All
It's
day. I'll swim in 75.
okay,
That's
that's
warm enough for
fair.
me.
Sunny in 75, like Joe Nichols said. So, question number 5 to finish up the Fast 55. If you could go back in time and pick one of these careers to do the rest of your life, let's say it's 25 years, you have to do it. Would you
Okay.
rather be the captain of a pirate ship or the innkeeper of a lighthouse?
Oh, pirate ship. Man, adventure. Come on. A lighthouse, you're stuck in the same place all night. And I just saw like the Robert Pattinson, Willem Dafoe movie too. And it just did not make that lifestyle look fun at all.
Yeah,
In, in contrast to the millions of pirate movies I've seen where they're just having a ball, there's not been one movie about someone working in a lighthouse who looks like they're having a good time.
you know what? That movie, I believe it's actually called Lighthouse, isn't it?
Yes, or The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse. Very strange. Like,
Yeah,
even though they
watch
filmed it
watch
now.
Pirates of the Caribbean and be like, who's having more fun, Willem Dafoe or Johnny Depp in these two movies? No
If
contest,
anybody,
pirate.
okay, I'll give you that one. But if anybody hasn't watched a movie like The Lighthouse or Lighthouse, it's so bizarre. It's like filmed, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, but it's filmed in black and white with like the turn of the 1800s into the 1900s. About that, it's a it's a very just strange movie.
Eerie.
But I do like lighthouses, though. I will say that, Tyler. I do like lighthouses.
Oh,
I've
we have a
checked out.
beautiful one here in Ashtabula.
You know what? I've never got to see that one. I've seen the one, or seen both of them, but toward the big one on Presque Isle in Erie,
Yeah.
and the one that's on the beach, not the one right on the small one on the pier, or the one on the hill, but the one on the in Presque Isle. But the other one I've seen is the one in Fairport Harbor. Shout out to Fairport Harbor and the Fairport Harbor Museum. Have you ever been to that one?
Oh yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
I've
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say we used to jump off of lighthouses back then. I don't advise this. I was kind of thinking of it like, oh, you said what's worth coming out and doing here in Ashtabula, and initially I was going to say, oh, come jump off the lighthouse, but I don't advise doing that.
Yeah, especially if you don't like heights. I don't like heights. I'm actually scared to death of heights. But I went up on the both of those lighthouses, but definitely really cool. But shout out to Fairport Harbor. If you've never been to their lighthouse and their museum, to all the listeners here in Cleveland, definitely go up. The beach in Fairport is wonderful. You can get ice cream across the street. You can go to the Fairport Family Restaurant next to that. You can make a whole day of it. So, but I definitely have to check out the lighthouse in Ashtabula there, because I have forgot about that, and I don't think people realize how many lighthouses. Now we're on this lighthouse tangent. How many lighthouses there are on Lake Erie, like between Pennsylvania and Ohio.
Land of lighthouses and covered bridges.
It's a great way to look at what Ashtabula is, the land of lighthouses and covered bridges.
It's
So,
like living on a giant miniature golf course.
you know what? You should just carry a putt. Or you could carry a putt ball and a putter everywhere you go. So it could be great. So, Tyler, we give every guest here at the end of the show about a minute, just anything they want to promote, whether it's like your music, your comedy. I know you do a little bit of that, but if you want to promote that even more, where people can find you, if you have any social media handles or anything you're going to be doing in the future to encourage people to attend, or if you just want to leave a good message, that's fine too. But we're going to give you about 30 seconds to a minute, anything that you want, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I got some comedy nights coming up here. Marco Winery, June 14th. We got some funny people. Teddy Bruno is going to be coming out, also a local from the area. We got music also happening at Marco, going on through June, July, and August. I'll be performing a lot of Fridays. We have open mic nights first Friday of the month, open to musicians and comedians. So if you're local, if you're in the area, Conneaut, Ashtabula, even out in Erie, you want to make your way out, have some amazing wine, get up on stage, please do. Also, yes, the residency there we have Wardy's Laugh Factory at the Cove nightclub in Geneva. Just a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. So, yeah, make your way out, support the arts. Please just support the arts in the area. You see a restaurant, you go out to eat, and you see someone in the corner playing just like a bad Bob Dylan cover. Give them $1, give them a tip. Because it's not an easy thing to do, and you got to do it to get better at it. And the people who do it just want to do it to entertain people. And I think that's an important thing we all need.
I think that's a great message to get out there because also when you're supporting these artists, you're supporting their small business as well. And we all know
Absolutely.
that small business was really the founding of this country. So, Tyler, thank you so much for being on. Thank you to all of our new listeners and our old listeners tuning in for this show. As always, if you like the show, be a friend and tell a friend. If you didn't like it, tell them anyways, because I bet they like it just because you didn't. This is your special guest host, Fitty, signing off, and we will see you next week.
The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by W Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par, but this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rock it on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get yourself 10% off there as well.